everyone. This is Tia. The topic for today's discussion is going to be the importance of inclusivity and gender sensitivity in the workplace. Just to start it off, I'd like to give everyone a brief on the topic. Diversity does not exist without inclusion. Inclusion comprehends people's involvement and empowerment. When people are included, their worth is recognized and respected. Employees are at their best when they're on their own authentic selves. To be one's authentic self, one must feel included. Not only do they contribute to creating a happier and more productive workforce, they also improve the organization's financial performance. Still, one of the biggest challenges we face today is creating a diverse and inclusive environment for the workforce. Achieving true diversity and inclusion takes more than a training video or a session about being polite to coworkers. Many reputed organizations have been taking measures across multiple fronts, including hiring, promotions, opportunities, behavior, and more, to instill, improve, and constantly monitor these principles of inclusion. That being said, we have two very special guests today who will be joining us for the discussion. Our special guests are Amita, who is the Vice President of a global bank and also a seasoned TEDx speaker, with Priyankar Podar, who is the Vice President of Wealth, Compliance and Financial Services. Our hosts for today are Vivansha and Kshagra. Without further ado, let's get started with the discussion.
Thank you, Tia. So I'm Vivansha and I recently graduated from NMIMS and I have my co-host here, Kushagra.
Hi Amita, hi Priyankar. I'm a first year student at NMIMS School of Branding and Advertising.
So how are you guys doing today?
Wonderful, yeah. And, thank you so much for the warm welcome. And let's make it a very free flowing, interactive kind of conversation because, the kind of key takeaway for all of you is you take maximum from us, whatever doubts, whatever, learnings you want to achieve from this session. So ensure you actively participate and not just monologue where both of us are talking.
Thank you for having us. I'm super excited to do it over a weekend with young minds like you, and I hope to have fun today.
Well, that's a really great energy that we're having today. So just to start off the session, what does it mean or like what does the term gender inclusivity mean from both of your own point of views?
So, okay, couple of things, especially all of you need to understand certain basics, and then we'll come to the inclusivity part of it. Okay, I'm sure some of you have already read books like Sapiens and all. Why it's important. So let's try to look at certain basics, around society formation and all that. So gender is a very societal construct. So it's not like if you are a man, you're supposed to do certain things, you're supposed to behave in a certain way. Likewise, I mean, I'm talking from the binary lens perspective. If you're a woman, you're supposed to behave in a particular way, you're supposed to fulfill certain duties. But because gender is what society has constructed, that's how it has been derived, and that's what is taught to us by our education system, by people around us, by society. And that's what we start thinking this is what gender is. Again, to simplify it, look at nature. So I love backpacking in the mountains. Okay. Look at any tree. There is so much of diversity in just one single tree. Not two leaves are similar. They are different in shape. They are different in color. They are different in overall formation and also their life, right? So we don't call it this leaf is male, this leaf is female. Nothing like that, right? And that's how nature is, full of diversity, and still one tree is kind of holds all these leaves together and blossoms. That's how it should be. That's how the overall human race is all about. But because we formed society, and that's how the formation of kind of culture revolves around, that's where the term gender came into picture. And that's how then, even back then, it wasn't just binary, it was all about inclusivity. But later on, there were certain self-proclaimed custodian of culture who knew, that we know all about human race, we know all about culture, and that's how the overall society, the continents, the countries, and everything was formed. And then to rule over, to continue their rule, they formed definition of gender, and that too then further restricted to binary, which is male and female only. And that too then patriarchy, misogyny came into picture because majorly men wanted to rule the society. That's how this overall formation happened. Now, when it comes to inclusivity part of it, even today in a 22nd, year, what we see, societal aspect and corporate aspect. So, of course, changes are happening. Like, beyond binary, also so many positive changes are happened, which are monumental changes. So, in India, especially if you see, third gender is now a legally recognized gender, which is definitely a positive move. But even today, the discussion is about, um, women equal rights, fights against pay disparity, especially in the corporate world. So these are the fights. So that's where, when it comes to inclusivity for the other genders, still it's kind of way behind, but it's moving in the right direction, is what I would say. Now, fine, third gender has been legally recognized, but all of you might have seen. So pick up any kind of basic things, any ticket booking application, any form that you fill in the gender field, you will still mostly see male and female. That's how inclusivity is even today, after that monumental judgment. And because that's how the societal legal framework is, that's what gets reflected in the corporate world too. Because corporate world is a subset of the societal world. What you see in the society gets reflected majorly in the corporate sector too. So that's how then these other genders gets discounted. Now, same is from the overall legal rights and protection perspective. So now, as you rightly mentioned, in the month of Pride, you will see rainbow color being paraded everywhere, which is a good thing. Talking, discussion, sensitization, and all. But then overall legal framework, inclusivity, it still needs to be evolved. After the third gender legal recognition, it still need to be evolved when it comes to, let's say, for example, corporate insurance covering anything beyond binary. Still progress needs to be made. Similarly, the day-to-day interactions, if you see, unknowingly, subconsciously, because of the conditioning that we all go through, immediately the example that is that is given or quoted is male manager subconsciously, male lead subconsciously. He did that, he got that, he has done it, he is doing that. And even women talk like that because of the conditioning subconsciously. So the narrative overall is very one gender centric, male. And that's where not just female, from the binary perspective, all other genders also get discounted in these daily narratives. So conscious efforts need to be made to ensure subconsciously also we don't discount these other factors. I'll also mention another interesting book, because you all are students and that's how you can enrich your knowledge. So there is this amazing book by Caroline Perez. It's called Invisible Women, Exposing Data Bias in a World Designed for Men. Okay. What it majorly talks about. So technology is basically blind when it comes to diversity and inclusion. And so that's how, as technology is blind, the solution that we build and roll out, of course, are going to be blind towards the diversity, and they'll not think about inclusion. So if you really want to be inclusive, you have to invest conscious efforts to ensure your solutions are reflection of the society that you're part of. For example, very simple thing, Google Maps. When Google Maps was initially launched, it had only feature of fastest route, because again, the kind of male dominated society we live in, all men sat at the table, thought of a solution, rolled out Google Maps, and they only thought of fastest as the feature, because for most of men, speed is the kind of, driving factor. But then let's say for me, I want to use Google Maps after 10 p.m. Speed is not my concern. My concern is safety. I want safest route. I don't want fastest route. And that's how then in that solution formation, I and so many other women were completely discounted. Same for face recognition system. I mean, you just Google it and you will see when it was launched, it failed to recognize Black people. I mean, it branded them as gorillas. Because again, those aspects were discounted when the solution was formed. Only selective few were part of the solution making. So many other factors in IoT. So the voice recognition system, only men were part of it. So it could only recognize a conventional male voices. It completely discounted a high pitch, let's say female voices. So that's how gender get discounted in all this thought process unless we invest conscious efforts.
I think Amita gave amazing examples, and she has rightfully set the fundamentals out there. Uh, you know, it's an interesting topic. To me, it means the mere principle of equality, which Amita was just talking about, right? With all these examples, we now are in a very comfortable space to acknowledge that any job or task cannot be compartmentalized to a gender specific, role, correct? Like, and the society as a whole have created this biases and stereotypes, and we have been following them. But I'll bring in some corporate examples to tell you that things are evolving, may not be in a very, very fast pace, but we do see changes. It's if you look in our country itself, we have example from aviation industry. We have the maximum number of women pilots. Indigo ranks in the top, right? An area which we never thought that women can go there. We have a factory of a two-wheeler which has come up in Gujarat, which is completely handled by women, right? Who thought that mechanical job can be done by them? Again, those were biases which we created. We thought we can't do it. We lived with assumptions, but those are breaking, right? Amita is a great example. In the technology field, we have amazing, excellent women coders today. We thought, okay, technology is a space where only men can go. So all this were biases which we were living with, you know, but those consciously have to be broken. We have to have an open mind to acknowledge the fact that who who has made these rules, question and do a credible challenge to those facts, right? And we are proving ourselves slowly. The examples which I quote from aviation industry, from mechanical industry, right? But again, that's one side of the coin. The other side, I'll tell you the biases which men had. You all are in a undergrad or graduating from these schools. If you look into your gender divide and the specializations you do, and if you see the HR domain, right, you will see very few men. You know why it has happened? Because there are biases. And I have suffered that bias. When I was in a B school, my parents would be like, HR, really? That's something girls do. That you will not get a job because that's soft skill, that's women area. But no, today we have so many successful CHROs who are male, right? We have again broken a myth by looking at the male influencers endorsing cosmetic products, or because that's basic hygiene. What does a male or a female or any gender has to do about it, right? So that is what is equality to me. Please do not compartmentalize yourself for a task and assign it to a gender. That's a myth which we have to break. But that is equality from a demonstration point of view of what's happening in our ecosystem. But what we as an individual can do, we can also be a change maker, right? And how can we do that? Be very mindful of the language we use. Try to, again, it's not easy, but try to have a gender neutral vocab when we speak, gender neutral salutations when we are addressing someone. If you are the owner, again, a very small example, you are writing a paper for your college or for your submissions. Be very mindful that you're not using a pronoun which is only associated to a gender, because that's where our biases are kicking in, right? I make a conscious effort now that any training material I publish or I'm drafting, I do not use a gender. I use a very neutral, gender neutral, vocab in that. If few of you go out in the industry and create advertisements, please do ensure that those are gender neutral advertisements, right? Do not stereotype. Again, do not fall prey to what we have been listening to or seeing to or believing into. Challenge them, and keep yourself your horizons open, and implement those thoughts, these conversations which we are having today in your practical life. And that's what equality means to me.
That was both wonderful answers. It was really enlightening. The idea that Amita said about interpretation of history and how it has shaped the the perspective of modern Indian society was really insightful. There was one more discussion that we had prior to this meeting about how the same interpreters mostly have been men, and it has led to a patriarchal society. So, what do you think, uh, as a modern men of India can do now, can take initiative now to make effort into creating a more equal society, a more gender inclusive society?
I'm sure all of you have seen conversations that happen, especially, around Women's Day, which is 8th of March. Really welcoming. But what are those conversations? So I remember even in 2022, on 8th of March, there was a WhatsApp forward which was making rounds. A woman with multiple hands, and one hand has a baby, one hand has a I don't know, some utensil, one hand has iron, some hand has something else, and that is what is celebrated. And then there are these messages which are being forwarded. They are the givers we should celebrate. They are the sacrificers. They are the most courageous ones. Have we ever seen similar messages being forwarded for men? No. So basically, the thought process again goes back to the formation that I was talking about, putting women on pedestal, and then not just women, even other marginalized sections, putting them on pedestal, making them idol of something, and just completely disregarding their human aspect, humanity. That's where we need to improve upon. And especially for the men in this discussion, you don't have to celebrate women for something. Just celebrate women for being women. Celebrate women for just being a human, not of symbol of something. The moment you will change that thought process, automatically other things will change. Just look at your mothers. Why can't you just treat her like a human? Why do you have to treat her like some goddess or some symbol? She's a human at the end of the day. She's prone to make mistakes just like you, because you are a human. She's also a human. So that's how you need to look at it. The moment you will bring in humanity in your lens, things will automatically change. And that is the basic kind of foundation level change we all need to bring in our thought process. Okay. And I'm not referring, let's say 10 years ago, the situation was worse. So I'm not saying situation is the same today. Situation has changed, but not fully. It's moving in the right direction. But then when all of you start changing your mindset, the pace of this change will be quicker. And other aspect to it is, we are talking about women empowerment, and that's how discussion is not just restricted to now big cities, but also tier 1, tier 2 cities. At least discussion is happening, change is yet to happen. What is the need of the hour is training men on how to be around empowered women. Otherwise the societal fabric is going to break. A simple example, I mean, let's look at a very cisgender heteronormative couple. So they live in Pune, working in IT, staying in an apartment, and both of them are working in IT, which is an equally demanding job for both of them. In a setup like that, when the man or the boy starts expecting the girl to cook in the morning, get up early, make dabbas for them, also after coming back from office, make dabbas again because homely food is good. That's why I married you. And his mother also telling him, now, you have got a wife, so you should get dabba, you should get ghar ka khana. Then that woman will, she cannot work. She's a human at the end of the day. Multitasking is not something we should be celebrating. That's how we put women on pedestal. So stop doing that. She's also human at the end of the day. She's going through office stress, so she just doesn't have the bandwidth and the capacity to cook 2 meals at home. That is where either you contribute, take half of the load, or just order in. So the basis of that is, men now needs to be trained on how to be around empowered women, because this thought process also reflect at the workplace is no different. And if you look at our lifestyles now, we spend more time at workplaces than our time at home. And when there are women and other aspects of diversity at the workplace, unless you look at it from a human lens, unless you look at it from an equality lens, you yourself will be uncomfortable working among this diversity. You will diss their existence. And the moment you diss their existence, where will equality come into that equation? For you, they are not even humans, they don't exist. Then all your thought process will always discount them. It could be your daily interactions, it could be the overall, like the solution building that I told you, it could be the overall framework at the workplace. Everybody else will be discounted the moment this thought process back home reflects at the work.
Yeah, I guess, we who identify ourselves as men had a lot of privileges for last few hundreds of years. We thought that these are jobs which we do and we excel, and some kind of jobs which we are not supposed to do, and they are negligible. I'll give you a very small example. When COVID hit us, we were all packed in our houses. We saw all of a sudden this amazing adventure we the men started and putting our hands into cooking and baking and whatnot, right? The moment we got to bake a amazing cake, we put it on social media, WhatsApp chats, and people started celebrating that, giving you a thumbs up, hearts, and what all emojis. Did we ever realize that, people, I mean, women, your mother, your spouse, or sisters who are at your home have been doing it for years? Have you taken a moment to at least thank them or celebrate that? So these little moments matter, and we didn't even realize that what they are good at. We couldn't identify those moments. It's great to have a Women's Day, a Mother's Day, but again, those are becoming very commercialized these days. To have a specific day to celebrate that, to voice out that emotions is good. But are we introspecting and ourselves and taking it back home and celebrating little joys, right? Taking kids to school and bringing them back, it's not a woman's only responsibility. As Amita was saying, in a nuclear setup, both the couple is working. They all have targets to meet, they all have meetings to attend, they all have multiple Zooms to attend to. So let's acknowledge the fact that to build up a house, we need a partnership, and that partnership comes from both the genders, right? From, it doesn't have to be one gender doing one set of work and the other will do other set of work. So that partnership we have to develop by we the men being a little bit more open, understanding, and empathize that what they have been doing has been great, but what we never acknowledged it and congratulated them for the great work they have been doing together, right? So I leave you with that thought. I at least have changed. I mean, I am still horrible in baking, but whoever sends me a cake, irrespective of the gender, I'm a big fan of that person. So it doesn't have to do with gender. That's equality in true sense to me.
Well, I agree with like both of you. And in fact, the examples that you've stated, I see that around me in my environment as well. So, like all of us, I'm sure can relate to the examples. So that just tells us to what great extent they still exist, even in tier one cities. So yeah, it's a long way to go, but yes, we do need all the genders to come together and look at these responsibilities from a very equal lens and a point of view. So very rightly said by both of you. Uh,
One point which I missed to kind of touch base upon is the responsibilities also on women, because during especially the formation years of a kid, the kid spends more time with the mother, and that's how the kid's mindset and overall personality is kind of built initially. So if the mother is constantly telling the kid blue is for boys, boys are not supposed to be crying, boys are supposed to be all the time playing outside, boys should be treating women like, slaves, boys should not be cooking, boys should not be in the house all the time, then that's how that personality gets developed, and that's how the boy thinks he's supposed to behave. And then overall in his personal life, at the workplace, this he brings in. So the equal responsibilities on women also. Stop raising your sons like this. I mean, there is no point in blaming others if you're raising your son like that. In my example also, I mentioned mothers-in-law telling their sons that, this is what your wife should be doing. So the mother is spoiling his mind, and that's how creating problems for another woman. Some of you might be mothers-in-law tomorrow. That's where stop doing this right from today itself as a takeaway from this session.
And also, I mean, great point, Amita. And you brought a very interesting angle of mother-in-law over there. But I'll tell you, and I do a lot of, I am remarkable sessions out in my personal capacity also. And I do see women do suffer to some extent by a modesty syndrome. And that's because how the society or the culture we have been up, we have lived in, right? That we don't talk about our achievements. And also, let me tell you, a woman needs to be supported by another woman. We have very weird chemistry between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law, and we have been listening to this for centuries. They have to support each other. And when that equation changes in a home setup, and when one has a back of the other, that again promotes equality, promotes their achievement, puts out there what great work they're doing. It doesn't have to be at your workplace, but even if you're a homemaker.
Very true. Moving from a very universal point of view, now let's shift our discussion towards the more specific sector, which is the banking sector. So, despite banking being such a highly competitive field, both of you have been successful in making a mark on it. So, I would want to know from you or some advice from you for the women and just other students in general. What would your advice be to them who are aspiring to enter this sector? Starting off with you, Amita.
See, what I would suggest is just because somebody else has done something doesn't mean you should also be doing similar things. Okay. All of us, that's why, when I'm asked who is your role model, I never have an answer to that question because A, I personally don't like, maybe is a hard word, but I'm not quite into autobiographies because majorly I find them very goody goody. I mean, when a big personality is born, nobody knows this kid is going to be that big. And then every memory, every small thing of that small kid is being mentioned in the book. How do you even remember? And who is there to validate? So um, that's how when somebody asks me who is your role model, so their journeys are different, their life struggles are different, and the kind of life I have gone through, there have been so many situations where I had nobody to kind of look up to. That's where then maybe on certain level I feel the role model concept is overrated, and we are the kind of architect of our own lives, and that's how our problems are unique. And the moment we focus more energy on the problem, it becomes a mountain. So we need to focus at least some sort of energy on solutions. That's how then solution finding approach comes into picture. Okay. Now when it comes to career, first of all, try to find where your interest lies. Even our education system is very flawed till today. We are very much marks oriented education system and not skills oriented education system. I mean, I still remember this joke which I had read somewhere. So there is this flood, and there are the two friends, and in the flood, so Meena kind of swims through the flooded river, and crosses the river and reaches the other end. And Tina is kind of struggling, and then people come and save her, and everybody applauds Tina because she's a merit holder in her SSC exam. Nobody applauds Meena. That's the kind of society we live in. Somebody who has scored maximum marks, they are like the celebratory people, but not somebody who has acquired life skills, not somebody who knows what they want, very focused. That is what is more important, I would say. And that's why stop celebrating multitasking, deep work. Figure out, do a SWOT analysis. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And then if your strengths align with a career in the financial industry, if your strengths align around that, then look at building a career in that field. Again, this I'm talking more or less from the privileged perspective. A lot of time, some of us are not privileged. We don't have these liberties to make, choices that we really want. So that is where then maybe you will have to find your passion in the work that you have chosen, even though it's not aligned. But that's where then also the other aspect remains. Along with this, try to find out where your passion is, because that is what will keep you going. And the word that is being used for this is purpose of life. The takeaway that I leave you with from this question is, rather than career in financial industry, try to spend efforts in finding out the purpose of your life, because a career in financial industry maybe will keep you going for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, up to retirement. But what after retirement? You will again find yourself in the same tsunami of figuring out, now what am I supposed to do? I'm lost. I don't have anything in life anymore. So try to find out what the purpose of your life. And there is no such thing as somebody has a big purpose. Like, for example, some celebrated person has got, Elon Musk has a big purpose in life, very meaningful purpose, and a social activist, do not have any purpose, doesn't have any purpose in life. No, there is no such thing as big purpose in life and small purpose in life. It's your own purpose in life. It matters to you, for you to keep going, for you to be successful.
Yeah, so I mean, valid point. And I was when you asked that question, I walked back the memory lane when I was studying in a B school and I was in graduation, trying to understand what I will do in life. I mean, finding the purpose. And you know what? It's always also the peer pressure which we fall into. And I'll give you very life examples. When I was doing my commerce, I was doing my Bachelor of Commerce, right? From one of the reputed colleges. And then I saw each one of us in the class would do something over and above the graduation course, a CA or a CS or a CFA, and it was a rat race. And if you don't do something, you will be judged that, okay, you're only doing graduation, you're only doing BCom, you're not fit. Maybe something is lacking in it. So I also jumped in the bandwagon and started doing CS. I cleared the intermediary also, but that again was peer pressure. Going to classes together, we have to do something because everyone is doing something. And then I lost interest in between and I fell off, right? So that's what Amita is trying to say, that A, find the purpose, right? What is your interest area is something which you need to identify first. Getting into a banking job, getting into a big bank, be it in India or outside, looks very glamorous, puts a good name on your CV, but really you want to do that is a question which you have to ask yourself. Again, you know how the evolution of banking industry is also happening. To be very honest, each bank, and I'll give you 5 names, maybe JP Morgan, Credit Suisse, Citi, Bank of America. If 100 jobs are opening, the reality is only maybe the 50% or 40% of the jobs are core banking. You know, at times joke that am I in a bank or I'm in a tech company? Because the rest, all requisitions come out from technology, data scientists, user experience, branding, so on and so forth. So it's no more just a bank in the terms of I give you money, you give me deposits, and so on and so forth. That culture, that is we have way past that now. So don't limit yourself thinking that I will be either selling a product or handling cash in a branch or so on and so forth. There's so much work which has come into a bank that you can't even imagine. Have Instead of having a role model, have mentors in your life. And mentors can be from your peer group, can be someone in the senior. If you know someone in a coveted organization, go and speak to them. Do some fact finding and then link it back to what you want to do in life. And that will be a very scientific way of addressing what you want to do, what you want to achieve. I'll give you, since we're talking about equality, I'll give you another aspect to it. You know, banks, the traditional banks, and I'm not talking about the fintechs or the new generation banks which are coming up. The traditional bank are very generational, right? Might have a boss who is to end of early 60s, and I might have an intern who is in early 20s. So that's what the span of a bank is. So the culture, please to understand, will be different from what a fintech bank will be. So you joining a bank and then realizing, oh, where did I land up? It's not a fair thing to do, because let's be very honest and candid over here. A person who is in his late 50s, early 60s may be coming from a different school of thought. I can't change that person overnight. I can do sensitization, tell that person how society has changed, evolved, and how we have to be inclusive. But that's a process. So keep those aspects also in mind, because now you all are almost of the similar age, the energy level, the thought process might be similar, and that is what is you're taking into perhaps a fintech or a startup. But a traditional bank might work in the same way in silos and not in general, right? So do your research. I would say again, have mentors instead of having a role model. It's not no harm in having a role model, but you don't know that role model what they have done in their personal or professional life in details. Whatever comes on the social media or it's written on Wikipedia might not be the 100% truth over there. But a mentor, when you're sitting with him, that person with a cup of coffee or going to his place and having a dinner, that's the real life you're seeing. And that's when you get to know the real life experience. Okay. And then tie back and see where you're passionate.
So I have a question for all of you on this, okay, which Priyankar. So do you understand the difference between a mentor and a coach?
So, as per what Priyanka just told us, so a mentor is a person who we see the person working right in front of us, and then we learn from their learnings. A coach like instructs us maybe and tells us directly what to do and get it done.
Very, very much aligned. Anybody else?
I think a mentor is someone that you follow, whereas a coach is someone who teaches you about a particular subject.
Okay. So to summarize, see, a mentor is somebody who helps you find your own potential. Whereas a coach is somebody who has already solved that problem and tells you to solve that problem that way. So again, a very relatable example, so that some of you who have watched Mahabharat, which is one of the celebrated ones. So when, for example, in Chakravyu, when you're stuck, a coach will tell you, this was the path I followed, you follow this path, you will be out of Chakravyu. Whereas a mentor will mentor you to find your own potential so that you can apply your own logic, your own strengths, your own brain, and you will figure out your way out of the Chakravyu. That's the difference. It's not like you only need a mentor. It depends on the situation, what you want to seek. There are life coaches also available. So it's all what you seek. But usually, when you want to find your own potential rather than following a path which has already been followed by somebody, mentor is the one who helps you with that.
That's really insightful, Amita. We are a generation that consumes a lot of Instagram. On Instagram, we see one reel of an awesome car and an awesome like house, and we feel like if we follow this career path, in the 15 second of that reel, we will receive that awesome car or awesome house. So on Instagram, bubbles are very easily to create, and this advice was really insightful for that. The next question that I have is, you both mentioned that there are progress in workplaces. You mentioned of HR progress into creating a more gender inclusive environment at workplaces. What do you think can be done furthermore to increase this growth exponentially?
I think that's a great question. And all of us are, struggling, and we are on a journey, I would say, right? The good part, you know what, is that organizations, small or big, have acknowledged that they have done, they have area of opportunities. The mistakes which they have done, the facts which they have not acknowledged, they are in a very sweet spot to go even public and show, this is our representation of gender, which is very skewed, but we are ready to work upon. They have also gone a step ahead and shared their pay inequity, racial inequity, sexual orientation inequity. So we are in a stage of, corporate, revolution, where people have at least being honest about what is there in present and what needs to be done. Now, out of all this, in last few years, because we know there are this oppressed sections which needs to get uplifted, and everybody is talking about diversity, inclusion. We need to do. Our social medias are, of the organization handles are full of this information. Somewhere we do see a diversity fatigue kicking in, right? Because there's so much echo about this, and we will see this in June. It's an amazing month to dedicate for Pride, but we will see this. All our social media handles will get bombarded with Pride rainbows and Pride colors, right? It's great to have 1 month out of 12 dedicated to them, but there is a fatigue there. But why is this fatigue? That we need to question. Because today we are not walking the talk, right? Or we are not implementing the talk. What we are doing is developing strategies at a high level. We are not fact checking whether it's getting implemented at the ground level or not. We want people to be inclusive. We want people to be sensitized. But are we telling people what they're signing up for? Right? Are we going to the employees and telling them what is the value add we are bringing onto the table? Or what are we losing of not having inclusion or not having equality in our organization? Believe you me, it has a huge impact on our balance sheet, right? Uh, so that's where we have to plug. We need to ensure that the strategies which we are drawing has a realistic, smart project plan, and we create milestones which are achievable and which are tracked maybe on a quarterly basis or on an annual basis, and do a introspection what we have achieved from what we thought we should achieve, right? I'll give you examples. We talk about we are developing a strategy to make our organization inclusive. Have we looked at our own policies? Does the policies reflect what we are thinking? Are they gender neutral? Be it the, you know, the medical leaves, be it the medical assistance, be it the adoption leaves or surrogacy leaves, or and so on and so forth. Again, when we are hiring, have we introspected that the pool of resumes which we are getting, are they having a mixed gender representation, or there is some bias kicked in even in the recruiting team for picking up few resumes based on not only the gender but also culture, race, geography, so on and so forth. I can go on. We talk about inclusivity, but our offices do they have infrastructure which is gender inclusive? And by gender inclusive, I don't even mean a gender neutral washroom, but facilities which are helps the disabled people, right? It's good that we have we do say that we are a company which would encourage disabled people to come in, but have we done fact checks? Do we have abilities for a wheelchair person to walk into our office, right? And all this conversation, when this is going on, somehow the lens is only internal, and that is not right. In this competitive market out there, when you all will be passing out from your colleges and will be analyzing and comparing organization, what is the medium? Social media, right? You will talk to other people, you will rate one company versus another, and a organization may lose out on a talent because they know that these people have perceived us a non-inclusive company. So not only we need to do internal check, but we have to be very mindful what organizations are doing externally. And I'll give you examples. Client interfaces, right? ATMs, IVR channels, are they disable friendly? If you make that, that's the first impact a walk-in customer in an ATM machine would get about your brand. When our relationship managers, say for a bank, are talking with a client, we need to be very careful what they're advising them. Predominantly, and I have a relationship management background. I know we used to give mutual funds, high risk mutual fund to a men. We used to think, oh, women will not be able to have a product which has a high risk, element to it. That's incorrect. Who gave us that power to decide that risk taking capability is only for men, right? Again, when we talk about third parties, vendors, do we have a diversity in our vendors, or we are thinking that okay, if a vendor which is led by a disabled person, a homosexual person, or a woman may not be able to be at par with our requirements, right? So there are a lot of work which needs to be done, and that's when I say that there should be a dedicated effort to ensure that whatever we are strategizing, those are having milestones, and we should lead it like a project, and not it shouldn't fall between the cracks, and it should not be a tick mark activity for any organization. Yeah, but it's a long journey. We have come a long way, and we have a lot to do. But I try to give you a 360-degree approach of how we have to evolve as an organization.
See, all of you are going to be future leaders, right? Tomorrow you will have teams, you will have openings, you will have positions. So understand. Now HR is running various programs. Some of, let's say, all of you are not part of HR. You are part of other, business units within an organization. In your organization, HR is running various initiatives around driving inclusion forward. What it's important, creating legal framework and all. Now you open a position to hire somebody. Okay, the kind of male-dominated society we are part of, immediately the first 20 profiles that will hit your inbox will be privileged cisgender heterosexual men. Unfortunately, that's the brutal reality. Now the onus is on you. If you understand the importance of inclusion, diversity, if you really believe in it, if you really want to walk the talk, then you will see, oh, I need to invest some more efforts to maybe hire a woman. I'll figure out how I can do that. Oh, I need to invest some more effort to tap in LGBTI plus talent. How my organization is helping me with that. Let me figure that out. Oh, I need to hire a specially abled person because I believe in inclusivity. I want my team to be diverse. That's how then we can have diversity of thought at the table. That's how our solution formation will have various aspects. And then you will action on it. And that's how then you will create employment opportunities for various aspects of diversity. And that's how you will drive inclusion forward. So the onus is on you. It's a joint responsibility, but unless you believe in it, you do it, you walk the talk, things will not change.
Well, thank you so much. And I think all of us can agree here that we have taken a lot of great learnings to look back upon and learn from them.
Do you think today's work culture affects one's career growth if one chooses to come out to the world? And how is it viewed now versus like a decade ago?
It's a very good question. Okay. See, all of you need to understand we have our personal lives and we have our professional lives. That's how it is. Okay. And you can't really erase any of these. Okay. Now, almost all the organizations have woken up and, to be to not be obsolete in the competition, to maintain their brand value, have embarked upon the journey of inclusion, especially around LGBTI plus. They are ready to understand, they are ready to indulge in conversations and make required changes in the legal framework and overall infrastructure, framework at the workplace possible. Okay. Now somebody wants to come out at the workplace because the organization is very supportive. Great. But then that individual also has got personal life, right? So that is where risk analysis comes into picture. That is where you need to analyze, because your personal life and your professional life intersect on certain aspects. They are not completely separated. They intersect somewhere you might not even understand. So have this understanding how it will create an impact in your personal life and what impact it will create on your professional life. Your decision should be based on this. Okay. Then when you come out at the workplace, again, it's your choice. Okay. So if your immediate manager is super kind of, and we all understand, right? When we start working in an organization, we understand because we are surrounded by humans. Fine, the legal framework and everything is there, but at the end of the day, you're working with a human. So that is where is your immediate manager supportive of all this? If yes, everything will be kind of, the person will hold your hand, walk with you along the journey. But then if that's not the case, then you have two options here. Whether you want to be that person to bring in change in that person's mind, take up that challenge, face everything head on and continue marching, do that. Or look for other options within the organization, internal mobility. Seek other opportunities where you think you will have lesser challenges. Because see, it's not the case just because your LGBTI plus have come out of the workplace, so all your workload is gone. Now you're there and you just don't have to work at all. It doesn't happen like that. So fine, you have decided to be a visible role model, but at the end of the day, you're paid for the skill set that you're bringing to the table, for the job that you're doing for that organization, how you're helping that organization achieve its goals. So you should not be compromising on that because your salary for which you're working is coming from that aspect at the workplace. So now, great thing is, because this transition I've seen with my own experience, organizations are ready to support a sabbatical. So for example, let's say things are extremely suffocating for you, especially people who are going through, let's say, a journey of gender transition, which involves a lot of medical interventions, various things. So things are horribly suffocating for you, and then you want to take a sabbatical. Organizations are ready to support that. Organizations have rolled out monetary benefits to support kind of gender transition aspects at the workplace, which is a very brave and welcoming move. So check out how your organization can support in this journey, and then hold organizations hand to march ahead in this journey, and take a judgment call constantly, because at the end of the day you need to be very wise in picking up your battles. You can't be fighting every single battle at the workplace, because that way you will just end up losing all your energy in fighting the battles, and then when will you deliver your work? So be wise in picking your battles. But positive thing for all of you today is organizations are supportive if you decide to come out at the workplace. Organizations are endorsing zero tolerance for intolerance policies at the workplace. So if somebody is cracking a joke at the expense of your sexual orientation, the organizations are ready to punish that person and support you, which wasn't the case, let's say, 10 years ago. But that's where take that judgment call, and based on that, pick your battles wisely.
So, as Amita said, you have to pick your battle very wisely. You have to be cognizant of the fact that how your surrounding is. Uh, an important aspect to identify is, do you have allies around you? And are those allies visible enough? Amita mentioned about the leader, the manager, immediate manager with whom you spend more time, the colleagues in the immediate team whom you spend the more time. Are they an ally? What is your assessment? There can be two kind of allies: a closeted ally, just like a closeted person from an LGBTQ community, and then there can be a visible ally. So if you have that confidence and comfort of seeing that allyship around you, then it becomes easier for that person to come out. And why it is important? Because and a LGBTQ person coming out can't go back to the closet. It's one time, done. Everyone knows. An ally today can come out and go back. Nothing to lose. But at the end of the day, why are we only putting the onus on that LGBTQ person? Because they're anyway oppressed. Why can't we make an environment, a psychological safety net around our employees, where they can bring their authentic self to work? And believe you me, the productivity somewhere will increase. Not that that person will, as Amita said, will have no work after that once he comes out or she comes out in the workplace. They will be known for what they have done at the end of the year, when whatever your meritocracy process is, that will be judged on the job you have done and not your sexual orientation is. But can't we be enablers to give that person a space to increase that person's productivity by bringing the authentic self to work? But that psychological safety net, all of us have the onus to create. And visible allyship has a lot of traits. That person might be having a pride flag in her workstation, or a pride, uh, bringing in the aspect of pride in the town halls or the meetings they talk, the approach. Maybe that person in front of you has stopped someone from making a joke which is unacceptable. You know, so those are all signs people should keep their, before they come out, and if they're in that assessment journey, that whether I should come out or not. And if this should be also an aspect to see whether, when they're, because we spend what, 8 to 9 hours or maybe more in a workplace, and in the hybrid model even more, always on Zoom and Teams and whatnot. So that assessment that person has to do before they embark on that journey of coming out.
Also add my personal experience, because I want all of you to, like I said, take a lot of learnings from this session. See, I have made a conscious choice of being this visible role model. That was my own personal choice. Okay, but then what happens? The moment my colleagues, not all of them, but a lot of them get to know about it, suddenly then there is this possibility that I am compartmentalized, you know. But then I made a choice of taking up that risk. I decided that I want to give that hope to whoever is going through similar situations. So that is what matters to me. That is what the purpose of my life is. So all these other issues or the other battles that I have, they are not that important for me. because that's the choice that I made. So even if today I'm getting compartmentalized, when people are getting to know, there is this possibility of us versus them kind of a situation. I am stereotyped. Suddenly, I see, especially certain men, awkwardness coming in our kind of association the moment they are getting to know about my journey and all. But that's okay. These things don't matter much to me. That's what I am as a person, but not necessarily everybody is like that. That's why I'm saying pick your battles wisely. The organizations are extremely supportive today, but at the end of the day, you need to pick your battles wisely.
So I'm really glad that we actually got to pick up that last minute like audience question, because we got such insightful like ideas, and we even got to know about your journey, like at least at a glimpse. We're really glad that we could take that up as well. And with that, now I would actually like to call Vikram Aditya for the vote of thanks.
Hi everyone, I'm Vikramaditya. I'm a recent graduate of the Anand Surendra Modi School of Commerce at NMIMS. And I would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed guest, Amita, who is a vice president at a global bank focusing on personal banking and wealth management, and Priyankar, who is also a vice president at a global bank focusing on wealth compliance and financial services, for presiding over of our event and for sparing time from their busy schedule and enlightening us. I would also like to express our gratitude to the NUSC, that is the NMIMS University Students Council, for being an unwavering wall of support throughout the event. And finally, I would like to thank Christine ma'am for her unceasing guidance and efforts. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending this event.